So I talked to an actor who was like, oh my God, it's everything that... He takes like 10 classes here. It makes me laugh. And I was like, you're still not really believing it? So he was on set of this show, and there were like 4 hugely famous actors, and he actually got to be in the rehearsal process of it all. And in the taping of it. It's a sitcom. And he was like, oh my God, it's exactly what everybody is saying at the studio all the time. He's like, they were all working with script in hand. They didn't have anything memorized. They were learning it as they were going along. Everything was like kind of working out of what did the actors want to do. Did I tell you the story already? No, the actor would have an instinct and they wouldn't follow it. And the director would shout out, what did you want to do? And the actor would be like, I wanted to do that. And he's like, why didn't you follow your instinct? Sound familiar? That's how the real world the real world works that way. You have to show the director what you want to do, and then they have the idea of what they can then add on to it or subtract from it. So he had like a light bulb. He's like, I know you guys talk about it all the time, but I had to see it for myself. So I guess that's also great. This is why I also advocate be an intern at a casting office. So you can be behind the camera and watch. Like nobody really, I always like to joke, except for Meryl Streep, has really any more gifts and talents than anybody else in the world. Some people I just think are born into this existence, supposed to be actors. Everybody else is like struggling and trying to figure their own humanity out that they bring to the work. So we're all on a level playing field. You can do it. I think that's so great. You see other people struggling with the same things that you're struggling with, and you're like, wait a minute, except for their name and their credits and the title and the amount of money they make and how many shows and their history and their resume, it's the same. It's the same. So that's great. Second thing, I ran into a student at the gym yesterday, and I was like, how's it going? He's not in my class, he's in one of the other classes. So obviously I don't see everybody. And he said, I wish I had more time to be working. He didn't say craft, because I would have like thrown weights. Not that word. But he's like, I just wish I had more time for my acting. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I got 2 jobs, and like, he's like, and I get it. Listen, I understand we have to pay the bills. That comes first. And we have to be responsible citizens. However, I was like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, because then I would just have like 12 hours a day to devote to acting. And I was like, hold on a second now, honey child. Here's the truth. Y'all know I was just in Croatia, and I walked the Game of Thrones steps. I walked King's Landing, and I've never seen Game of Thrones before, but now that I've come back from actually walking it, and everybody, Games of Throning this, Games of Throning that, so I'm starting to watch it. So this weekend, I finally had a weekend free. I wasn't filming, I wasn't out of the country, whatever. So I was like, oh gosh, I have so much writing I gotta catch up on, so I'm gonna write. No. Why? I kept going to watch the next episode of Game of Thrones. That was 12 free hours I had. So you know how much writing I did? Like maybe 10 minutes. I was like, oh no, it's so much more valuable for me to watch Game of Thrones. No, not really. So that just goes to show you, the truth is if you were given on a silver platter 12 hours to create art, chances are you would not be creating art at that kind of voluminous level the way you think you are. That's fairy tale. That's projection. It's fiction. You're not actually more... I actually think if you start to break it down, you start to realize like maybe an hour of really focused, or 3 hours of really focused work on yourself and creating and really being mindful and turning the phone off and really getting out of your way to try to create is more valuable than thinking, if I didn't have A, B, C, D, if I didn't have to be at that job or do that, then my art and my career would be different. You guys, it's not the truth. I wrote, it's not true that having more time in a day to do things makes you better at things. Ooh, that's good. It's really about how you manage it. Now listen, of course, you need to work. I'm not talking about it from a monetary perspective here. I'm talking about, of course, we get better and we adopt skills by doing it. So I'm not discounting that. Of course, by working, you just get better. There's no doubt about it. But I want to end with this, is if you stop comparing and despairing and thinking if your life was supposed to be like that, it would be something else, and instead honored, well, listen, I have 2 jobs, and what am I learning on those 2 jobs that I can bring to my work, that I can bring to my art? And that's the real light bulb, is that the things that you're doing when you're not acting are all the things that you can bring to your acting. So really, the best gifts, I think, have nothing to do with acting. It's like where you get tripped up in life and where you want to like be more honest and brave and exploratory and curious and sharing of yourself out in the world, then you want to use that in the opportunities you have to create. So I think you have to stop punishing yourself, thinking my life would be this if I didn't have that. You know, the thing I always like to say is if it were supposed to be that, it would be. But it's not, so start working with what you got. And stop punishing yourself, for God's sakes, it's so crazy. Okay, so that's all I got there. 2 good reminders. You can do it, and you can do it being where you are right now. Figuratively and literally. Spiritually. Got it?